Yesterday we saw a 10% crash in Bitcoin despite massive positive sentiment and momentum in the crypto space over the New Year's. In today's video I'm going to talk about why this happened as well as bullish and bearish triggers on the short time frame that will suggest where we'll head to next. By the way, if you're new here, hi, my name is Jess, and as the channel name suggests, it's all about crypto, trading and technical analysis. So if you're all about that or you'd love to learn, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel.
Alright, so diving right into the video, guys. So obviously moving into 2024, there was a huge consensus that we would see a spot Bitcoin ETF approval or likely approval on the 10th of January. So that was the big date deadline. So obviously moving into January, we saw a lot of positive price actions. This is the 1st of January here, and on the 2nd of January we actually broke past a really important level of short time frame resistance at 44.3k. So after doing so, we reached a local high of 45,800. We were so close to touching that macro level of resistance at 46k, but unfortunately before we were able to do so, we started to see some signs of exhaustion on our RSI. So that's our downtrending exhaustion here, momentum here, and uptrending price. So within 24 hours we saw a massive correction down to the downside of 10%, and we re-established our parallel channel on the 12-hour chart, confirming that this entire move above 44.3k was actually a fake out. So let's talk about why this happened. Some people might argue that this is just a classic case of a liquidity grab or in an overextended market, and indeed we did have a lot of liquidations, $596 million of long liquidations in the last 24 hours, and 400 million of these occurred in a 2-hour period. So that was these two candles here. $400 million in liquidations. For me personally, I think this was just a very sneaky example of market manipulation, specifically by Matrixport and other big crypto news outlets. So at 8 o'clock last night, so 8 o'clock just before all of, the price crashed, all of the, sorry, I was about to say went down. They released a article and a tweet, or X, that the SEC will reject all Bitcoin spot ETFs. And note their wording here. They're not saying, Matrixport analysts believe that the SEC might reject, or Matrixport believes that there is a potential for a rejection of the Bitcoin spot ETFs. They specifically say SEC will reject all Bitcoin spot ETFs in January, and final approval will be achieved or may be achieved in Q2. So they don't even use will here, they say may. They also predicted that the price of Bitcoin would fall to $36,000 to $38,000. So the original tweet on X got 102 million views, and obviously that's not even considering the reiterations on X by other people as well as news outlets. For example, this one by CoinDesk. Where did my screen go? CoinDesk here, and then the original screenshot that I showed you on Crypto News as well, just to name two of them. So obviously this impression had a huge effect on the market. A lot of people saw it. Everyone in the crypto space saw it, and moments later we saw that huge crash as a result from this really negative view. What's really particularly suspicious about them saying this is that just one day ago on the 2nd of January, and the 2nd of January is when we had that breakthrough from 44.3k, they posted that they anticipated a substantial Bitcoin surge to $50,000 in January, driven by an imminent Bitcoin spot ETF approval, institutional buying, factors such as supply shortage, yada 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 yada. So in just 24 hours, they've completely changed their opinion, and it happened to coincide perfectly with the surge and the dump in the crypto market on Bitcoin. I don't think that's a coincidence. I would bet my life that this is market manipulation, and I'm not the only one that believes it. If you have a look at the comments, they're hilarious. It's just full of people saying delete your account, I reckon you guys shorted. This one saying cool story bro, and completely just calls them out on the two completely opposing views. It's really, really funny. They've tried to since recover from everyone kind of realizing that they just clowned the market. This post by Jihan Wu, I think he's a co-chair of Matrixport, is basically saying we're not, this tweet here was we're not responsible for your trading, he says at the very bottom. Other readers of Matrixport analysis should take full responsibility for their own trading choices. This one here, where he literally says himself that actually he doesn't think that the ETF will not be approved. He literally says himself, the co-chair of Matrixport releases after they allow their analysts to post that the current volatility and potential approval uncertainty of Bitcoin ETF in January 2024 are ultimately of no importance. In the long term, Bitcoin will always prevail. In my opinion, the approval of a spot ETF by SEC, which will attract fresh investment, is inevitable. So I don't know. These guys are such clowns, but there you have it. That's the reason why we had all this crazy stuff happening. So essentially this entire move above 44.3k was just a fake out. We're back in this parallel channel. So now let's talk about what kind of bullish and bearish triggers we would like to see for either scenarios moving forward in the short time frame. Okay, so let's first dive into the bearish scenario on the 12-hour time frame, just to talk about what happens if this move continues downwards and we don't actually see a breakthrough of 44.3k, yada yada yada. So naturally, if we break down below this parallel channel at $40,800 or $40,700, that would be a major bearish trigger for us. So that would mean that we would likely retest this level down here at $40,000, and that's our major level of macro support. So our macro support is between $38,000 and $40,000. Why this would be so bad is the same reason that this breakout here was so bad. Right, so when we broke over 44.3k and we were unable to test the next level of resistance at 46k, that means that we never actually fully established support at this top level of resistance here at that 44.3k, and we eventually broke back down below that, supposed level of support, back down below to test our real level of support or our lower level of support at $40,800. So I just threw a lot of words at you, but hopefully you grasped some of it. Let me just show you again on a weekly chart, just to clarify my point. So we recently broke over this level of support here at $40,000. That's our, as I said, the macro level of support here. And there are these two levels, so that $38,000 and that $40,000. So what I'm saying is this entire move here, and it's much more apparent when you zoom out onto a macro chart on a weekly chart. If we broke above $40,000, if we broke above this and we never actually retouch our next level of resistance, what that means for us is that entire move is just a deviation. And I said this in my last video. So if we break back below that parallel channel, naturally we retest that $40,000, but the problem with retesting that level is because we never actually tested a new level of resistance upon breaking above that level, we've actually never established that $40,000 as a real level of support. So what that means is that we'll break back down to test a real level of support that we've actually established at $38,000, and that would be the most likely scenario if we break below this parallel channel. Okay, so now let's go back to that 12-hour time frame and talk about the bullish scenario. So alternatively, our bearish scenario would be triggered by us breaking through this top level of our parallel channel. So parallel channels are neither bullish or bearish. They kind of just suggest that we're sitting in between two levels where neither our bears or bulls are taking control, and they're just kind of, jumping between those two levels. So if we break above this 44.3k level, and it's a real break above, not actually a fake out, then we should see a retest or a touch of this macro level of resistance at $46,000. So how to identify a real breakout as opposed to a fake out? Let's quickly pop into the 1 hour time frame and have a look. So prior, when we broke out of 44.3k, oopsies, you can tell it's a fake out because of the way that the rest of our indicators move when we establish this price action. So even though on the actual price action itself we were establishing a trend line that was upwards, our RSI was actually immediately downtrending. So we printed one green candle that took us above 44.3k. Our next green candle right above it at 45.4k did not actually continue this uptrend here. What we saw was an immediate decrease or a downward shift in our momentum and established a descending trend line. So directly conversing trend lines on strength index and the actual price action is a bearish divergence, and so what we saw immediately was that crash. So a loss of momentum or a fake out basically. You can also see on the volume chart as well, pretty much the second we printed that, second peak on our green candle, we saw a volume flip, a red flip back down, and our volume continued to decrease until that crash as well. So our bullish scenario, if we have a real breakout of 44.3k, we'd basically see everything that we didn't, right? So our momentum, we should establish an uptrend that continues until we break that 44.3k, and it should continue past that 44.3k until maybe we retest 46k. So we should only really be losing momentum when we approach resistance, not as we're approaching it. Same with volume, a huge green volume mountain, I guess. Yeah, mountain, with, obviously those green changes in volume as well. So increasing surges in positive volume on that mountain as we approach 46k, and maybe only a slowdown of it as we kind of wick over 46 and go back downwards. So that would suggest to me that we've properly established a breakout, and if we do touch 46k and we break back down to 44.3k, we would establish 44.3k as a level of support. So we would sit above that and kind of consolidate between these levels before moving to that next level of support and resistance at $46,000 to $48,000, and that would be our next level of major macro resistance. So that is the upside scenario, and I think for right now, I think it's pretty safe to assume that it's really hard to tell which way it's going. For example, there are some indications to me that maybe we have finished that downwards move. Bitcoin, for example, has moved, in the last day about 2% upwards, so it's kind of regaining a little bit of that strength. We were kind of, breaking back into this width of average moving average trend lines. So we're kind of reestablishing a bit of a trend flip, but it looks like we're kind of losing a little bit of it there. It's really, really difficult to say right now. We have broken our major RSI downtrend. We are sitting above that for now, but it doesn't look like it's a particularly strong, why won't it? There we go. A particularly strong move above that trend line. We are kind of looking at potentially retesting that trend line soon. Volume is looking a little bit better. We are looking a little bit stronger. However, we're by no means printing positive volume at all. It's still very much below. We're just decreasing the strength of bearish volume. So as of right now, it's really, really difficult to tell which way we're going. I don't think I would ever decide or take any trades really until either we break this level here, in which case I would look for a move down to here, or a break above this mini level of resistance, in which case I would look for a move at least to retest this 44.3k level, and then after that those major levels of short time frame resistance and support on that parallel channel. Okay guys, I think I'm going to end the video there for today. Hopefully none of you got caught on the downside of that Matrixport scam, and if you did, hopefully it was in a short. If you guys liked the video or you learned something, feel free to click the thumb button and subscribe to the channel down below. As usual, I'll pop in the links for trading views so you guys can chart along with me if you like, as well as Bitget and BingX where I do all my trading. If you guys want 15% off your trading fees, feel free to sign up down below. I'll also pop in a little QR code for my Telegram where I make daily Bitcoin price action analysis updates and news events for free. But other than that, I think that's everything I wanted to say. So I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Bye!